Hey everybody, and welcome back to Satisfactory. My name is Dakoba, and today we're going to be going through a few quick tips for how you can add depth and texture to your buildings. One of the problems we're trying to address with this is that it's really easy for your buildings to end up as just sort of big blocks, these monolithic structures that don't have any sort of depth or texture to them. So what we're going to talk about today is ways that you can add that depth, and particularly what we're going to look at is wall placement. You can see here I've got a normal wall running along the edge of foundation. This is super easy to do. Anytime you place a wall, it'll snap to the edge of a foundation. You can see right next to this, I have a wall 1/4 of a foundation out, and here we have one half a foundation out. And I want to go through the technique for doing that real quick. So in order to get something let's start with half a foundation. That's easy to do. For this, you're going to need catwalks, which you can get from the Awesome Shop. So let's go ahead and place a catwalk. And then on the end of that catwalk, you can actually snap a foundation. Now, catwalks are half a foundation thick, so once you've placed your wall, you can go ahead and delete both the secondary temporary foundation and the catwalk, and you have a half depth wall. Now, if you want to get the quarter depth walls, that's actually going to be using a similar technique or a variation on that technique. If you snap along the side, catwalks can actually go to any quarter depth increment. So we can place a catwalk a quarter of the way along a foundation, and what that means is that if we get clever with how we place our foundation, we can go ahead and snap a wall there as well, and then do the same thing where we delete both the foundation and the temporary catwalk, and we're able to get that quarter depth wall. Now this is great if you want to have like inset windows or something, because it just looks really good. It's not too sort of aggressive against the original wall, and so that's something to definitely consider take a look at. Now there's another technique if you want something more precise than that. If you want something that's halfway out, or an eighth of a way, or any other percentage, and that is to use these small pillars. If you place them horizontally, connecting two foundations in the center, you can actually slide a wall along them freely, and this means you can place it at any sort of depth you want. So for example, if we jump over here, we can do this at, say, a one wall depth out, or a two wall depth, any depth we want, 2.5, whatever you like. Now, if you do like this 2.5 depth wall, you've got this weird gap here, and how are you going to deal with that? I mean, without the ability to easily place a foundation, you could place a foundation and have walls sort of jutting out the back, but that's kind of ugly. So that's the next technique, is that you can use the new painted beams in order to fill things in. By taking the beams and running them vertically along both sides, you'll create a solid structure that is the same color as your walls if you paint them right, but notably obscures any gaps, and that's a huge trick there. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's great for building walls sort of with a horizontal depth, but what if I'm looking for vertical depth? Well, that's where another new buildable in Update 5 comes, and that is the frame floors. The frame floors are 40 centimeters high, whereas previously our best foundations were 1 meter high. With the frame floors, we can do any increment of 40 centimeters. So you can see here, I have 3 frame floors attached, which should be 120 centimeters. That's a bit over a meter. So if I take this foundation and I snap that to the top frame floor there, you'll see that that's actually sticking out 20 centimeters above the other frame floor. So you can actually do this at any increment of 20 centimeters, because let's say we're wanting something that's 40 centimeters over the original. Well, that's a simple matter of placing a frame floor on the original and then just snapping something to that. And now we've got one that's going to be located 40 centimeters above the bottom of the base foundation, and that is great for adding depth. There's one more tip, and this is a sort of a freebie that I want to talk about using these painted beams. This is something I haven't seen anybody else talk about. There's a couple of things you can do with them that are really cool. One of these is that you can place them vertically, and you can place them in a solid line to create a new sort of wall texture that I haven't seen before. Notably, you can see here what I've done is created a half wall using this, and that I think is really cool. I really like that. Another thing you can do if you want to create a half wall is you can place them horizontally to create sort of like a shuttered wall. We can just take one of these horizontal beams and snap it there, and you can see that this creates a half wide sort of shuttered appearance there. And the cool thing about this is that we can also paint each of these beams their own separate color. All right, guys, that'll do it for today. Hopefully you guys have found these tips helpful, and I would love to see the sort of builds you guys do with them. So feel free to leave a link to them down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Ben Dacoba, and I hope you have an efficient day.